Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me once again for a short devotional. So, this time I'm focusing on the book of Job. It's what I'm reading currently for my personal devotion. And it's a tough book. It's ancient literature. Most of it is just theological debate between Job and his friends who show up. But let me just give you, in a nutshell, what I take away from it, very briefly summarized. So the main theme I think that I take away from the book of Job is that there is an active battle, right? The book represents God being all powerful and sovereign, ultimately having control over everything, but it also presents an adversary, Satan, who has power to come and to cause trouble. Even though God limits what he's able to do, God does allow him some freedom, and there's a lot more to all of this. And actually, there's a book I think does a great job in describing this. It's called The Theology of Love, by John C. Peckham. Now, the book is dense. I'm still working my way through it. But if you look on YouTube, there's some interviews that he does. There's some there's some podcasts also that interview him. So John C. Peckham is just brilliant guy writing on this. I'm making my way through the book. There's, like I said, there's a lot in there. But here's what I take from it, right? God's in control. Satan has some freedom to cause some trouble. So this also means that not all the suffering that I go through is necessarily directly related to my poor choices. Now, in my personal life, a lot of it has to do with my poor choices. But sometimes you'll suffer because of somebody else's poor choices. And sometimes you suffer just because we live in a sinful world. Satan's going around causing trouble, right? So this is part of reality. Job doesn't understand everything that's going on. He doesn't see behind the scenes. So in a sense, that gives me some peace when I don't understand why certain things are happening in my life. Job is an example of someone who is a good person, a follower of God. He doesn't describe what religion he is. It's not described as being Jewish or anything. This is before Abraham. It's actually arguably one of the oldest book in the Bible, the first one to be written. I don't want to get too much into that. But there's this idea there's just a man who has a personal relationship with God. He loses everything, his family, his possessions, his health, but he never curses God. And even though he wishes he had never been born, even though he struggles with the pain and the suffering that he's going through, and he doesn't understand why it's happening, he remains faithful to God. And this is huge. In the end, God restores everything to him. But I think it goes deeper for me. The main idea or the application for my life, and hopefully this can be of benefit to you as well, is the idea of being faithful to God because of who you know him to be, right? You develop that relationship with God, and you're able to trust him even when you don't understand everything that's happening, even when certain things don't make sense, even when you're struggling, when you're suffering, when things that, the worst case scenario, they're taking place. Does your faith survive that? Can you hold on to God through that? And the book of Job encourages us, I think, to do that. And in the end, he has everything restored to him. And, if you're not a Christian or a Bible believer, it may seem silly. But I think that there's something about a person who can live their life by a code, regardless of what happens, right? And stay faithful to that. For me, I guess my personal code is being faithful to God and his guidelines as given out in the scriptures, and then just trusting the process. Even if it doesn't make sense right now, I trust, I believe, I have faith that in the end, it will all work out. It's been my experience so far. It's been the experience of people around me. And when I look in the Bible, it just encourages me. In the book of Job is one of those stories. So where do you find the strength to pull through difficult moments? And what are your thoughts on the story of the book of Job? And if you want more resources, I'll see, maybe I can leave a link to a blog post I have on this. It goes a little bit more in depth. But that's my thought for today. Let me know your thoughts. I love reading your comments. I appreciate the interactions. If this video is helpful to you, feel free to share with friends as well. May God bless you, and until next time.